You know, the Democrats and the so-called black Americans have a quite strange type of relationship. If you kind of sit back and just be quiet for a while, or say very few words and just sit back and just watch, listen, and learn, you would discover that the so-called black Americans and the Democrat Party / Joe Biden has a quite strange type of relationship. It's almost like the relationship is of an abusive husband, and then you have the wife that goes back to the abusive husband because somewhere in her mind she thinks that he loves her when he abuses her. She don't think that he loves her unless he's putting his hands on her. And then it's like the relationship between the slave master and the slave. The slave is enslaved by the slave master. The slave master stripped the slave of his or her dignity. Would even tie them up and whip them when the slave master feels that they've done wrong. But yet, the slave still loves the master, protects the master because the master provides the food. The master provides the shelter. The master provides a false sense of protection. He's the only one that can put his hands on his slave. And it's okay with the slave when the master disciplines him or her. I want you guys to listen to Malcolm X. It's about 1 minute, 57 seconds when he talks about the house Negro and the field Negro. Now, what's interesting is now that Biden is in office, America is at its absolute worst. Inflation, high gas prices. When you go to the supermarket or even look at your pay stub, people are being put out of their homes, living on the streets, can't afford to make it. But no one is protesting. No one is burning down the country like they did when Trump was in and the economy was at its best. There was no inflation. The gas prices weren't high. You can go into the store. People made money under Trump. But they protested. They attacked law enforcement, danced on top of police cars. And then Joe Biden had the mandates. Black people complained that they were being assassinated by the police. Joe Biden signed protection for Asians, for gays, for women, for the illegal immigrants, but there's no protection for black people. But black people protest the most. Made all of that ruckus and noise and got nothing out of the deal. But then it's quiet now. And they're still attacking Trump. Black people will stand up, and what I find really, really, really strange, and it's scary in a way. I was watching Willie D live, and he was talking about when the FBI raided Trump's place. And he was talking, he stole this, he did that. And of course, black people are going to bring up Barack Obama and how great Barack Obama was, not realizing that Barack Obama was horrible. Barack Obama, a so-called black man, did nothing for black people when he was in office, but yet they love him so much just because of his color. And they don't realize that the Democrats are using people that look like them, that's not them, to control them. I find that to be strange. But it's normal to the average, everyday, so-called black person. No one is protesting. No one is angry. And they're defending Biden. They're protecting Biden. Trump is not even president, and they're still attacking Trump. And if you ask them, would you like Trump to run again? In other words, do you want the economy to be great again? Do you want gas prices to go down? They say no. They don't want the man. Their emotions are so caught up where the media had conditioned them, brainwashed them, bewitched them to the point where they're rejecting help because for no reason they don't like the guy. And if you ask them why, they can't give you a real reason. They start making up things or just repeating what they hear the Trump-hating media has to say. They repeat that. But when it comes to them giving their own reasons, they can't do it. But listen to Malcolm X, what he says.
Back during slavery, when black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill him. They sent some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said. You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were two kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master. Good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes, they ate the worst food, and they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the two. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes. I'm a field Negro.
I found that to be quite interesting because the modern day so-called black Democrats are the house Negroes because they dependent on the federal government to take care of them. They are still on their hands and knees begging for health care. They're begging for lodging. They're begging for food. With all the jobs that's now available because so many people quit and were fired because of the mandate, they still refuse to work. It's not enough for them. They don't take pride in pulling themselves up. They don't take pride in going to work and earning their own living. They expect the government to take care of them. But I also want you guys, or want to remind you of when Biden says they're going to put y'all back in change. Now, one thing I learned about Biden is when he say one thing, he really means something else. When he say he's not going to raise taxes on the middle class, that means he's going to raise taxes on the middle class. When Biden says that he's going to sign a law, for example, to protect black people, that means he's not going to do it. Biden does the opposite of what he says. So when Biden says they're going to put y'all back in chains, what he really meant was he's going to put you back in chains. That y'all is a straw man to keep you focused on the Republicans, make you think that the Republicans and the conservatives are the ones that's keeping you down, but in reality, it's the Democrat Party. And Joe Biden tells you they're going to put y'all back in chains, but Biden already put you back in chains in your mind. Because once your mind is enslaved, your body is going to follow. So now the so-called black Americans are content with the condition of this country. They're content being homeless. Look at New York City. Look at California. Look at Detroit. They refuse to even fix the water problem in Detroit. Black people are dying. But yet black people are silent. They had so much zeal to get Donald Trump out of office than they did to save their own lives and the lives of their children. But listen to what Biden says.
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Guess what? You're already in chains. You're in chains in your mind. Because right now, black people, the black Democrats, are silent. They refuse to lash out against their own party. They refuse to leave the Democrat Party. They refuse to leave the Democrat plantation. And Biden continues to put them in chains by telling them that they are not black. So-called black Americans have always allowed the slave master's children and the slave master to identify them. First it was Negro, then it was colored, then it was Afro-American after the hairstyle, then it was black, now it's African American. But you have so many so-called black people defend blackness. If you tell them they're not black, oh, they would get so upset. They would get biting mad, fighting mad. They'd be ready to take your life because you tell them they are not black. So Biden politically, he politicized blackness. And this is what he told you.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Did you hear that? You ain't black. So to keep their black card, black people, so-called black Americans, and I hate using the term black. Those of you that have been following me for a while, that have been listening to my video, you already know I hate that term black because we are not black. Blackness only describes the people that don't know who they are. So they identify themselves by a color, not by landmass. So Biden says that you ain't black if you don't vote for him. And guess what black Americans did? They voted for him. So I find that to be quite weird. Because now you not only refuse to protect and save your own life, it's like self-preservation, man, is like number one. You can't really defend your family unless you first defend yourself first. You have to make sure that you are safe. But yet you've given your life unknowingly into the hands of a political party that cares nothing about you but to destroy you. They are destroying you. And you're in la la land like everything is okay. And there are black people that still say that Biden is doing a great job. What planet are you living on? So I find this to be quite weird. Black people are still on the plantation. They're on that Democrat plantation, refuse to leave, and then they're attacking Trump. Willie D was attacking Trump knowing that there are so many so-called black Americans that had evidence planted on them. There's video footage out there, but yet now black people trust the FBI? Black people trust law enforcement? You just got done saying defund the police because the cops were so crooked. Not all. But many cops are so crooked, but yet you have those that's not crooked are protecting those that are crooked. So that makes them crooked as well. So now all of a sudden, you trust FBI? That said that they didn't want Trump's attorneys to be there. They didn't want them watching to see what they're doing. They didn't want video footage. Turn off the security cameras, they say. Why else would they not want Trump's attorneys there? And why else wouldn't they want video footage from the security cameras? Because that was a perfect way of being able to plant evidence just to keep Trump from running in 2024. This is not even about black people, but they will make it about you. They will make you think that they're helping you by keeping Trump from running. But yet, they've given you nothing so far. And you still protect them. You still stand up. I guarantee you, if Trump announced that he's running for president and he's about to win, watch, Black Lives Matter and Antifa will resurface. They will be angry. They will be tearing up stuff. They will be looting and stealing, attacking Trump supporters. But right now, you can hear an ant piss on cotton. That's how quiet it is. And black people are content with having nothing. And then you get mad and angry when Africans from the continent talk about you. Talk about what you're not doing, and you've been here over 400 years. And still complaining about slavery. But I guess right now you can say that you are enslaved. Because your mind is enslaved. And you refuse to leave the Democrat plantation. You refuse to think for yourself. So I'm going to end it right here, but I just think it's weird. It's strange. Just sitting back, listening. And it's like you're allowing them to strip your rights away. If anything, the so-called black Americans should be trying to defend the Second Amendment. So you have these Democrat states are taking away your rights, putting up all these bogus laws, and not one black person is protesting. Where's Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter should matter so much to the point where you would be protesting Kathy Hochul because of all of these gun rules, these unlawful, unconstitutional bills that she's signing. You should be protesting her. She should not be able to sleep in peace at nighttime because she's taking and stripping your rights while releasing prisoners into the communities. New Yorkers are now less safer than when Trump was in. So now, not only you got to worry about the white supremacist cops out there, but now you have to worry about the criminals that she's releasing from prisoners, from the prison. And yet stripping you of your rights to keep and bear arms. Doesn't make sense to me. If anything, you should be protesting now about these bogus laws. And they have free reign because they are Democrats. New York State should have already been flipped. California should have already been flipped. Michigan should have already been flipped, because you see how the Democrats have you living. But yet, if you look at Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all the other Democrat politicians, they're not living like you. They live in gated communities. They're living well. They don't have to worry about inflation. And it's crazy because the laws that they're signing are laws to tax you, but not themselves. Nancy Pelosi is inside trading. Her husband ran into somebody with the car while being drunk, and they swept it under the rug. But you can't do that. You get pulled over just by being black. And you're content with that. You may complain a little bit, but I don't see y'all out there protesting. I don't see y'all out there burning buildings down like you were doing with Antifa. Black people work hand in hand with white supremacists. They work hand in hand with Antifa to keep Trump from being in office. But yet now those same Democrats that you were defending and fighting for, they have you in chains. Chains of your mind. Your mind is in chains. Your spirit is in chains. Your spirit is broken. I find that to be quite weird. Am I the only one that's thinking this way? So feedback, tell me what you think. Subscribe. Like this video. Until next time. I'm fearless.